Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, on Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server, $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. Bypass the Apple upcharge, get access to 10 different channels, plus the host updates. Well, that's one of the 10 different channels. But anyway, 9 channels plus the host updates. Also, you can get to our stage shows, and we're doing these during the draft. This is the place for the most heat, information, conversation, and everything else. Anything decent that's on Twitter, we put here. And why should you support Twitter instead of us? Just think about that. Anyway, check out Off the Floor. Link right here in the description. Also, Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Put down your $5. You get 50 to play right away. Prize Picks, the official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Legal in the state of Florida. Can play up to 6 players together. Everything that was there before is pretty much there now. And again, this is the one that we play against us. Greg and I still competing for the finals championship there. Again, use the code 5, F-I-V-E, put down your 5, get 50 to play right away. And now, today's episode.
Mercy, luxurious, Heat Nation, yeah, Mercy and Lago, down to Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs.
Down to Biscayne.
Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on 5 Reasons Sports. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow me at Greg Sylvander. We got our guy passing George Sedano. It's so nice that we had to do this twice, actually 3 times. We tried to do it yesterday, and my computer busted. Vinny Goodwill back here for like his 17th appearance. Sedano will be on here at some point, whenever I have 45 minutes to 3 hours. We're going to go around the NBA here with Vince. He's in Indianapolis prior to Game 6 between the Pacers and the OKC Thunder. This may not air until after that game, so I'll just put you on the spot here, and that way we can hold you accountable. Does this thing close out tonight?
Yeah, it's over. I think it's over, Ethan. You know that there comes a point in every playoff series where you kind of run out of adjustments, and both teams know who the best team is, and the series starts to take form. That was in Game 4, and I don't know if Rick Carlisle, as great as he is, has an adjustment that does not involve Tyrese Halliburton forming into a healthy version of himself. And if he's not healthy, they don't even have a sliver of a chance.
Yeah, no, it seems like it. Give the Pacers credit for getting as far as they've gotten, but pretty much where we're at right now, this is the outcome that I think most people expected. All right, so it does seem like there are more people interested in what's going to happen next than what's happening in this series, based on the ratings and more, which is another conversation I want to have with you, but I don't want to get you into trouble on it. So we'll stay away from that. We'll stay to the transactions.
Please, please kick me out of trouble, Ethan.
Well, I think one person is basically destroying NBA coverage on his own, but that's a conversation for another time. All right, let's get to it. Greg and I we're going to try to rapid fire this as we go forward here, but I want to clarify one thing with you, and I know you just posted a story on Yahoo. You can find Vinny's work there. You posted a story about the Lakers, so I do want to get to that too. But I want to start with this. You kind of threw it out there, and of course, the aggregation society that we live in about Morant, and that it was well known. Is that the word you used? Well known that the Heat could get involved in that situation if there was a situation. Now, this is prior to Memphis kind of doubling down and saying that they're not going to move anybody else. But could you clarify what you said? Because we know we don't trust aggregators.
Yeah, no. Well, I thought it was pretty much common knowledge that, stuff that I'd heard was that, hey, if Memphis is shopping, then maybe Miami's going to be a team that gets into the Ja Morant business. Now, granted, this was around the time that Jimmy Butler was asking out and everything. So it wasn't like a clear path to a direct trade or anything like that. It was just something, you know how these things are sort of thrown around in boardrooms. It doesn't mean, hey, now it's time to go trade for Ja Morant. It was just something that was thrown about, hey, you might want to dig into this. Maybe Pat is interested in it. And I don't think it even went as far as the two having a real direct conversation about it.
I'm going to let Greg jump in a second, but just to follow on one thing on Morant. Do you think the Grizzlies are committed to him?
I think they say they are.
That's an interesting answer.
Well, you tell me this. Yes, I do think they're committed to him as long as the circumstances are correct. When you've missed the amount of games that he's missed, and you're not sure what he's going to look like health-wise for the remainder of his career, you have to take a wait-and-see approach, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I also think, like, in terms of the Heat's interest, they've usually looked for either a disgruntled star or maybe somebody who has question marks, and they feel like if you get them in Heat culture, so to speak, that things can kind of turn around. So I can connect the dots there too for Ja. It'll be I think Memphis is a fascinating case study for what they're doing there just now with the Desmond Bane trade and all that. Circling back to what you just dropped, Vinny, thanks for being on 5 on the Floor. I know you come on the show a lot with Ethan, but you're not on always when I'm on. So you dropped the story about the Lakers, and I think it's pretty fascinating how they're selling for $10 billion when they were bought for, what it was something in the millions. And then also that Jeannie Buss is going to be kind of the governor, I guess is what they're calling it. And so I'm interested to just pick your brain on what the setup is like there now with Jeannie Buss still being on board, yet they sold the team. And also, how much do you think Luka or to a lesser extent LeBron were looped into the fact that this was about to take place?
That part I'm not sure of. Like, I think when a team is about to get sold, I think there's like, how I'll put this, especially in a place like LA, nothing's really a secret. You find out stuff pretty quickly there. So I'm sure that they were aware that there was a possibility and everything else. You don't just come with a $10 billion transaction overnight. So I don't think that was something that was, real quiet. But players generally like to play for rich owners. Because if you are rich, that means you're going to spend your money on me. And if not just that, if you're rich, not only are you going to spend your money on me, you're going to be able to connect me, as in LeBron, to the other parts of the multiverse that can help me find and own a team down the line. The thing for me is this, and Mickey Arison is among one of the last titans, right? And by titans, I mean old money from the David Stern era. You get the Mickey Arisons, you got the Jerry Reinsdorfs, you got the Dolans, even though he took it from his dad. Those guys don't exist anymore. It's the venture capitalist guys. It's the guys that come from the financial world. Even some sovereign money has entered into the NBA over the past couple of years with Qatar and the Washington Wizards. So I think it's important to look at the Busses being like the Lakers were the family business. And as much as they were worth, I don't know if Jeannie Buss was cash flush. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot to operate a franchise. And you can say, my team is worth this, but you have to have upfront costs to cover everything to operate. They don't even play in their own arena. You know what I'm saying? In downtown LA or LA Live. And their facility is so far out. So you knew it was going to be real difficult for them to continue with the arms race. And, the new owners coming in, they had already owned a piece of the team. I'm not sure, going back to your first question, and you guys know this, it's easy to come in and say, hey, you're still going to be the governor. You're still going to represent us at the Board of Governors meetings with Adam Silver and everything else. But if I paid you $10 billion for a franchise, why would I allow you to continue to have control over my money?
Right. And I think that's right. Right. I mean, the Cuban situation. Well, look, I think the new owner syndrome also is something I want to get into because it's a good transition to what's happening in Phoenix and what also just happened in Dallas, right? Because we're seeing these new owners come in and they want to operate completely differently. If Cuban was still owned Dallas Mavericks and had the control, Luka would still be in Dallas.
Yep.
If Phoenix hadn't transitioned from Sarver to Ishbia, which was generally heralded as a good thing at the time, Kevin Durant might still be in Phoenix by the start of this season. Now, maybe he will be anyway, which is where I want to transition with this. So on the other side, I want to get into – well, I don't think so. Okay, don't aggregate that. I'm just going into a break, and it was a tease, so don't do that. Anyway, speaking – that's it. Maybe I got to send you – I'll send somebody the aggregator so they don't aggregate that. Anyway, if I did it, I would do it on Cash App. Cash App, of course, you can download it using our code on the floor over the next 14 days. And if you send $5 to a friend, you get $10 dropped right into your account. Sending money with Cash App actually feels safe. They look out for you. Something seems sketchy, or like what I just said, or they see you might be sending money to a potential scammer. They'll warn you, make you think twice before you hit send. You can spice up your payments with custom text, stamps, and backgrounds. If for whatever reason you don't already own, of course, you'd love to own Cash App. If you don't already have Cash App, just download it on your phone's app store, sign up, enter our code on the floor in your profile, send $5 to a friend, you get $10 just for getting started. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. All right, let me get back to this before we go a different direction. I don't think Kevin Durant's going to start the season in Phoenix, but it may lead up all the way to the draft, I think, which is Wednesday. With what you've seen out there so far and the teams that are being bandied about, which Houston, San Antonio, Bill Simmons told us the deal was done with the Spurs 2 weeks ago, so I'm not sure why they haven't had that press conference. But Houston, San Antonio, two teams that it seems like he has interest in going to, but don't seem interested in giving up much for him. Minnesota and Toronto, two teams that seem highly interested, but he doesn't seem inclined to want to go there. And then the Knicks, who don't seem interested at all, so that's out the picture. And then the Heat are just sort of standing there like, okay, you go explore the market, honey, and come back. You'll come back to me at some point. That's kind of what this feels like right now. Like the Heat are just sort of waiting this out. How would you handicap the race right now?
I feel like Minnesota would be the best fit, right? Because there's Anthony Edwards there. He doesn't have to be the guy. And you have a certain infrastructure there. I like Tim Connolly. I like Chris Finch. I like how they do things. But he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to live in Minneapolis. Fine. His prerogative. Then there's the Knicks. Like you said, the Knicks are still butthurt over all the things Kevin Durant said about them in 2019 when he chose the Brooklyn Nets. As we know, James Dolan is a petty, 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 petty man. So you take them out. Houston, I felt like, could have got him at the trade deadline for not as much as what they are getting for him right now. And for whatever reason, they did not want to get in the Kevin Durant business, or they wanted to see what the young guys would look like by themselves in a playoff situation. And we saw what happened against Golden State. If the San Antonio deal was done 2 weeks ago, yeah, we need to, wrap this up and stop having the conversation. For the Heat, and I'm not saying this because I'm on with you guys, this is fascinating. Because Miami has been on Kevin Durant's heels. This is like a woman you've been trying to date for 10 damn years, and she keeps going to mess with everybody else, and you keep like, you know what, baby, when you want to come mess with a real one, you know what I'm saying? Come to death row. Like, I'm very curious if you can hold on, if you can have Bam, Tyler Hero, and KD all on maxes and be able to build something sustainable, even sustainable in the short term, in this Eastern Conference, because I think you can only afford to have 2 maxes in today's second apron NBA. 3 handicaps you.
And to that point, I mean, you wrote a story recently on Jalen Williams and him being kind of the co-star out there in OKC, and they're on the cusp of winning a ring. Their salary structure and the way that they've built that team out is obviously atypical to what the rest of the league is doing, but also Indiana. I mean, neither team are luxury tax teams that are in the finals right now. Where do you see, because to your point, to max out, because Tyler Hero is going to be up for an extension any moment now, and the Heat could ask him to wait till the following summer. Bam is obviously already extended, but at a high number as well. Where do you rank Tyler and Bam if you look around the league? Jalen Williams being a co-star. I'm trying to plug another piece of yours that I read recently. Where do you rank Bam and Tyler? Because I think that's a hot debate among Heat fans of like, what kind of ceiling does a Durant Adebayo hero team have? Is there a path where if things break right, air quotes, like that they can find a path to make it through the Eastern Conference? Where do you evaluate the guys that are already in Miami and Hero and Bam and how they compare to the rest of the league?
Well, honestly, you're talking about the Eastern Conference, and every duo that you can think of in the Eastern Conference has some type of question mark. Like Giannis does not have a co-star right now.
Right.
Jason Tatum is going to be on the shelf for a considerable amount of time. Jalen Brunson and Karl Towns don't seem to have very much chemistry or trust right now. So there's an opening. I look at Tyler Hero as a high-level second guy who can be your third best player, but not your third scorer. I don't think he's a second side scorer. I think he's a primary scorer, right? He can be your third best player, your second scorer. I look at Bam Adebayo, that can be your second best player and a third scorer. So you need someone that can come in and make everything sort of connect. Can you be the best player? Can you be the primary option on offense and make everything sort of connect and fit in? Because I don't want Bam feeling like he has to score 20 to 25 a night. I feel like that takes away from all the things that he does well. And considering he's not a 7-footer, you're asking him to do a whole lot on defense anyway, given the fact that Tyler Hero is one of the guys that he has to cover up for on that end. And then you're giving him Kevin Durant, who he would have to cover up for. But I do think if there is a short opening, there's an opening. And if you're the Heat and you're saying all we need is a frontline star, and maybe he's disgruntled, and maybe he's old, and maybe we've always liked him and thought maybe we can really maximize him here, why not?
Right. Well, and I think the why not is how much you give up, and I think that's why they're debating this. And we've done podcasts on Durant's durability, which is a question because availability was a big issue to them. We've done a podcast about Durant not really getting to the rim anymore, which this is a team that lacks rim pressure in a big, big, big way. He's not going to solve that. But what he is going to solve is he's still an elite scorer shooter from every single spot on the floor. So that changes that equation. So I'll just ask you this. You're Pat, you're Nick, you're Mickey, you're Andy, you're their whole crew, and you're debating now. Phoenix comes to you and says, okay, look, all right, we're not really thrilled with Wiggins, but we'll take him, and maybe we can move him later. He keeps us competitive. We'll take Duncan's contract, which, again, they can get off of Duncan's contract early. Greg and I just did an episode about that. That gives us some tax savings. I don't know if the owner cares about it, but okay, we'll take it. We'll take the 20th pick in this draft. But we need Khalil Ware. We need a cornerstone young piece to sell to our fans out here. Because you know how this works, Vinny, in these trades. It's not just about what you get organizationally. It's if you're trading a star, you need to sell to your fans. We got this piece, okay? We didn't get everything we wanted, but we got this. They're not going to recoup what they gave up for KD. We know that. Just like the Knicks, when they moved Mikal Bridges, are not going to recoup ever what they gave up for Mikal Bridges, right? Or even Desmond Bane down the line. It's not how it works. But if you're asking the question, if they go to the Heat and say, look, we need Ware. Just get us over the top here. You may not even start him because KD can't play the 3 consistently anymore. So Ware might end up being a 30-minute player off the bench to start with. Give us Where you can have KD. You'll extend KD. You'll get 3 years of KD at the end of his career. Go compete. What do you say if you're the Heat?
Yeah, I mean, if you forgot to remember some of these like the wacky trades that have happened over the course of NBA history. Now, I will say this in fairness: the sticking point for the Paul George Clippers trade was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going into year 2. And they were trying to find a way to keep Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and have Kawhi and have Paul George. And Sam Presti, shrewd negotiator as he is, was like, no, this is the guy that I want. And the Clippers reluctantly, but understandably, gave him up for what they felt like was going to be a 4-year run with those 2 guys. They rolled snake eyes, and they gave Oklahoma City a franchise player and MVP. When you make a deal, you have to consider that being the possibility. You have to consider the possibility that, hey, you know what? Maybe Khalil Ware is going to be the two-way force that destroys the world for the next 5 or 6 years. If it is worth it for you to bring in Kevin Durant and get off of Duncan's money and okay, we're going to get off this pick, we're going to get off of Wiggins, maybe that's worth it and you take the risk, right? Because the question I ask is, can Bam and Ware play well together? Do you have the time to develop and see if in a win now atmosphere, because they're on two different timelines. Like Bam is what, 25, 26?
No, 27, right?
Mhm.
26, this is 27 year. Yeah.
Okay. So as much as that sounds, that's a lot of miles on Bam's body too, because he's playing up. You know what I'm saying? Like he's had some of these injuries that point to, man, you are banging against bodies that are bigger than yours and has a cumulative effect. So if you're saying, hey, we think we have a window right here, then yeah, you kind of have to do it and feel confident in it. And you can't worry about what Khalil Ware is going to turn into if you're making a deal for Kevin Durant for right now. What do you got? What do you say on it, Ethan?
We've done this up, and we both reluctantly gave him up at the very end. I think we went for 37 minutes and then finally went there. I don't think it will be necessary ultimately for them to make the deal.
Really?
Well, because to me, it comes down to this. Okay, they're either going to get there's like three different options here. Okay, they're either going to get blown away by somebody here, which hasn't happened yet, and I think the Heat are counting on it not to happen. The Heat believe that their offer they made at the deadline, which was Butler, a young player, and a first-round pick, is better than probably anything they're going to get right now because there is nobody offering a Jimmy right now. The Heat were offering whatever you thought of Jimmy and whether you're willing to extend him, which Phoenix would have been. They were offering a player who obviously had a pedigree that Jimmy Butler had. Okay, and so there's nobody that we're talking about right now that has that. But I think there's really three different things. There's either one. They're going to get blown away by some offer, and they're going to say to KD, well, look, we tried to work with you, but go to Toronto, pack your bags, okay? We got the number 9 overall pick. We've got – maybe they get Barrett or Quickly, okay, in the deal, and they sell that, and that's the 9 pick is the highest pick. Or say San Antonio would ante up 2, which they're not going to do. But let's say San Antonio offered
14
and, well, Castle, they're probably not going to do it. But if they get offered Castle, they would make the deal with them, right? So – But see, either that's going to happen, or Houston, okay, doesn't force Jalen Green on them, but they get Jabari Smith and maybe Reed Shepherd, okay, or another of their young players who has a lot of promise. Either that's going to happen, okay, but the thing is, if that was going to happen, it probably would have happened already. And so that's why I kind of think that the Heat's position is just wait it out, and then the pressure starts to shift to Phoenix. And then you get close to the draft, and you don't really want to be holding on to Durant past the draft. There's consequences to that. And so, and then again, if you want the Heat's pick, say, which is 20, you want the Heat to make a pick for you, not for themselves. So you want to get this done prior to then. And then the Heat get the leverage position and can kind of be like, well, we're not giving you Ware, okay, but maybe we'll give you Jovic, but we're not going to give you Ware, or here, take Jaquez, okay, or something along those lines. And I think it starts to shift to them. So I don't think it's ultimately going to come down to the question I asked you, but I just wanted you to give us an answer. All right, let's do rapid fire. Greg and I will do this before we close here. Philadelphia has decided, and I know you've done some reporting about them in the past. They've decided that they can kind of roll with this group and can compete next year. You mentioned it's not just the guys you mentioned that don't have a second start. Giannis doesn't have one either because Dame is out, right? So you were talking about like most of the teams in the East don't have two players they can pair. And we don't know who Detroit's second is going to be yet. Orlando may have just acquired a third, but we'll see. If you were Philadelphia, would you break the thing up right now or would you push forward?
What? Okay, you say rapid fire. So we're going to do rapid fire. Hell no, I'm not. No. I'm telling you, Ethan knows how to get me riled up. So that's what Ethan's winding up the Benny dial and all that. That's why he did that. No, look, man, Joel Embiid's body's a ticking time bomb. Paul George's production fell off a cliff last year. Like, we got to stop thinking that these guys are going to be great forever. And when you get the sign that a guy's falling off, you got to take that. And they maybe should have traded him at the deadline last year, honestly. So no, I wouldn't be going forward with this group. I'll be trying to get from under Joel Embiid and his money and Paul George. His money just saying, Tyrese Maxey, let's cook.
Okay. Greg?
I'm going to pivot in a different direction. The NBA draft is 6 days away as we record this. It's an interesting moment where there's a prospect in Ace Bailey that's kind of falling all of a sudden, and he's refused to work out in some scenarios. I'm interested, you're at the NBA Finals, as I understand it. You're hearing from probably a multitude of people around the league. Anything on what's going on with him as a prospect, as a young player towards the draft? It seems like a weird situation where he could all of a sudden, he was kind of a consensus top 3 pick and now may fall further down in the lottery. Just interested to hear if you've heard anything related to him.
Greg, people are confused. I think that's when you were refusing to work out and you want what reportedly was you want a promise from the 76ers, that before you meet with them, you want the promise. You tell me when the last time something like that has worked out. Even if you are a top 3 pick, you don't really have the leverage to strong arm unless you are Cooper Flag or Victor Wembanyama, which, with all due respect, he is not. So I don't know how far he's going to fall or what his long game is, but something is not adding up. It sounds like this kid might be getting bad advice.
Yeah, it seems like it. All right, let's go to this one. Cooper Flag on Dallas. What's your projection for him next season? And I mean, I guess Kyrie's not going to be ready, right? So what does Dallas look like to you?
I wonder what type of moves they're going to make, because I think they still have to go get a point guard, right, in the offseason. They have to go just to get like a serviceable point guard, that can sort of hold things together until Kyrie gets back, even though Kyrie isn't your prototypical bring the ball up, set the offense point guard. That means Cooper Flag can play a lot of point forward. That means they're going to be big around the boards. I think he can come in and average around 12 to 14 points a game easily as a secondary option, because you're not going to put the best defender on him, and he can sort of feast off of what Anthony Davis and all of that inertia and everything else that those guys create already. And don't forget, they still have Klay Thompson. So you still have to account for those other players. He's not going to be the guy that commands so much defensive attention. And he's a crazy athlete. Like, he's a great athlete, shockingly, for obvious reasons, because Duke doesn't do athletes. That's why. That's why he's a great. That's why it's shocking that he's a great athlete, because Duke doesn't do great athletes.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. All right, and I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay.
After draft night, Kevin Durant is with the blank.
I feel like he's with the Miami Heat, and I'm not just saying that because it's you guys. I feel like that's where he's going, unless, like you said, some team just comes out of nowhere and sends Kevin Durant to a place against his wishes. Which, to be perfectly honest, I would not be surprised if that happened.
That'll be fun. He'll be fun on Twitter if that happens. All right, Vinny,
that's
all right. We kept you around for 27 minutes just so we could get that clip. You've passed Sedano. We appreciate it. To all our friends out there, use our codes. Cash App, use the code On the Floor. Sign up to Off the Floor Prize Picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. Get your mood gummies. Use the code 5 FIVE. There you go. And also get your cigars. Also use the code 5. Have a good one, everybody.
Mood guy.